I was 29 years old the day my family decided my future for me. Not with love. Not with concern. With pity. If we're being honest. My Aunt Linda sighed as she stirred her coffee. Emily isn't exactly marriage material. The room fell silent. Nobody defended me. Not my mother. Not my older sister. Not even my father. Instead, Mom gave me that familiar, apologetic smile. You know she doesn't mean it that way. But she did. She meant every word. Because this wasn't the first time I'd heard it. Growing up, I was always compared to my cousin Ashley. Ashley had flawless blonde hair, perfect teeth, and thousands of followers on social media. She was the girl everyone noticed the second she entered a room. I was the girl who held everyone's coats. Whenever relatives visited, the compliments always sounded the same. Ashley gets prettier every year. Emily has such a kind heart. I hated that sentence. People only complimented your personality when they couldn't compliment anything else. By high school, I'd stopped trying.
No makeup.
No expensive clothes.
No dating.
I buried myself in books because books never judged my appearance. I graduated at the top of my class, earned a master's degree in finance, built a respected career as a financial analyst in Chicago. But somehow, none of that mattered. At every family gathering, there was only one question. So, when are you finally getting married? As if my entire life was incomplete without a ring. One Thanksgiving dinner changed everything. My cousin Ashley had just gotten engaged. The family celebrated like she'd won the lottery.
Champagne.
Pictures.
Tears.
Dad stood and raised his glass. To Ashley, the first woman in the family to marry a successful businessman. Everyone applauded. Then Aunt Linda looked at me. Emily, don't lose hope. I'm sure there's someone out there for everyone. A few people laughed. Someone whispered, maybe. I forced a smile, excused myself, and locked myself in the downstairs bathroom. Maybe I wasn't beautiful enough. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I smiled too little.
Maybe.
I really was unlovable. That word echoed in my mind for weeks. Unlovable. It followed me to work, to the grocery store, even into my dreams, until one rainy Tuesday changed everything. I was leaving my office late that evening when I noticed an older man struggling beside his car. The hood was open. Rain poured relentlessly. His phone battery had died. Without thinking, I walked over. Need some help? He smiled sheepishly. I think my battery gave up. I called roadside assistance. Waited with him under a small cafe awning. Bought him hot coffee while we waited. We talked for almost an hour. He wasn't interested in what I looked like. He asked about my career, my goals, my ideas. When the tow truck arrived, he smiled warmly. Most people would have walked past. I shrugged. It wasn't a big deal. It was to me. Before leaving, he handed me a business card. If you ever need anything, call me. The card read. I politely thanked him and slipped it into my purse. I had no idea. That tiny piece of cardstock was about to change my life forever. 3 weeks later, my company announced major layoffs. Nearly half our department lost their jobs, including me. What was the worst that could happen? I called. To my surprise, he answered himself. Emily, I've been hoping you'd call. The next morning, I found myself sitting inside the headquarters of Carter Global Holdings, one of the largest investment companies in America. William greeted me like an old friend. I heard about the layoffs. I'm sorry. He reviewed my resume for less than 5 minutes, then smiled. You've been undervalued. I'd like to offer you a position. The salary was almost double my previous income. I stared at him. Why? He leaned back. Because character is harder to find than talent. You showed me yours in the rain. I accepted immediately. Over the following months, My entire life changed. The company challenged me, respected me, promoted ideas instead of appearances. For the first time, I felt seen. Not for my face, for my mind. William became something like the grandfather I'd never had. He constantly reminded me, confidence has nothing to do with beauty. It comes from knowing your worth. Those words slowly healed wounds my family had created over decades. Then one afternoon, William invited me to lunch. "I'd like you to meet someone." A tall man walked into the restaurant, around 35. Tailored navy suit, confident without being arrogant. Kind eyes. "Emily. This is my grandson, Daniel Carter, the CEO of Carter Global Holdings." I nearly dropped my glass. Daniel smiled. "It's nice to finally meet the woman Grandpa won't stop talking about." I laughed nervously. "He exaggerates." William grinned.
No.
"I don't." For the next 2 hours, Daniel and I talked about everything except business.
Books.
Travel. Architecture.
Family.
Dreams. Not once did he comment on my appearance. Not once did he make me feel like I had to prove I deserved a seat at the table. When lunch ended, he asked, "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" For a split second, every cruel comment my family had ever made rushed back into my head. "You're not marriage material. Nobody notices girls like you. Ashley is the beautiful one." I looked into Daniel's eyes. He wasn't looking at my flaws.
He was looking at me.
And for the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe maybe they had been wrong all along. I almost said no. Not because I didn't want to go, because I couldn't believe someone like Daniel Carter, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, could actually be interested in me. My family's voices echoed in my head. "You're too plain. Men don't marry women like you. Focus on your career." Daniel noticed my hesitation. He smiled gently. "If dinner feels like too much, we can start with coffee." I laughed. "I think I can handle coffee." 3 days later, we met at a small cafe overlooking Lake Michigan. There were no photographers, no luxury restaurants, no bodyguards surrounding the table, just two people talking. For nearly 3 hours, Daniel never asked about my dress, never commented on my appearance. Instead, he wanted to know what inspired me. "What was your dream as a kid?" I smiled. "I wanted to build something that mattered." "What about you?"
He laughed.
"I wanted to become an architect." "What happened?" "My grandfather convinced me to study business." I raised an eyebrow. "So you settled?" He smiled.
No.
"I realized I could build companies instead of buildings." That answer stayed with me long after dinner ended. Over the next 6 months, coffee turned into dinners. Dinners became weekend trips. Weekend trips became something much deeper. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to earn someone's affection. Daniel never tried to change me. He loved the quiet parts of me. The woman who preferred bookstores over nightclubs. The woman who still volunteered every Saturday at the animal shelter. The woman who cried during old movies. One evening, as we walked through Millennium Park, he suddenly stopped. "I need to ask you something." My heart raced. He smiled. "Will you move in with me?" I laughed. "I thought you were about to propose." He grinned. "I'm saving that for later." A year passed. Our relationship became stronger with every challenge. Then came Christmas. Daniel insisted I spend the holidays with his family. I was terrified. After years of feeling invisible in my own family, meeting another one felt overwhelming. The Carter family mansion was beautiful, but what shocked me wasn't the house. It was the people. His grandmother hugged me the second I arrived. "We've heard so much about you." His younger sister smiled. "So you're the woman who finally made Daniel smile again." Nobody judged me. Nobody compared me to anyone else. For the first time, Family felt warm. Meanwhile, back home, my own relatives still hadn't changed. During New Year's dinner, Ashley looked at me and smirked. So, still single? Before I could answer, Mom interrupted. Emily's seeing someone. Ashley laughed. Really? What does he do? I smiled. He runs a company. Ashley rolled her eyes. So, a manager?
No.
He's the CEO. The entire table became quiet. Dad frowned. CEO of what? Carter Global Holdings. Aunt Linda burst into laughter. Oh, Emily. You don't have to make up stories. Even Mom looked embarrassed. Sweetheart. Be honest. I quietly opened my phone. There was a picture of Daniel and me at a charity gala, standing beside William Carter. Ashley stared at the screen. Her smile disappeared. No way. Dad leaned closer. His eyes widened. That's Carter Global? I nodded. Nobody said another word for the rest of dinner. 3 months later, Daniel proposed. Not in front of cameras. Not at some luxury event. He took me back to the same cafe where we'd had our first coffee. He held my hand. You spent your whole life believing you weren't enough. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you always were. Would only poison it. 1 year later, Daniel and I launched a foundation that helped young women pay for college and start businesses. Its mission was simple: to remind women that their value isn't measured by appearance, but by courage, kindness, and determination. Thousands applied. Hundreds received scholarships. Every acceptance letter carried one sentence: You have always been enough. Every time I signed those letters, I smiled. Because I wasn't just changing their lives. I was healing the little girl inside me. The girl who spent years believing she was unlovable. She finally understood the truth. She never needed to become beautiful enough to deserve love. She only needed to meet people who could recognize the beauty she'd carried all along. Moral of the story: never let the opinions of people who failed to see your worth become the voice inside your head. The right person won't love you because you're perfect. They'll love you because you're genuine, kind, resilient, and unapologetically yourself. Real love doesn't begin when someone finally chooses you. It begins when you choose to believe that you've always been worthy of love. Have you ever been made to feel not enough because of your appearance or someone else's opinion? What helped you regain your confidence? Share your story in the comments.